So guess we can start. Yeah.
Good morning to the chairman of Young Ophthalmology Forum, executives here present, the coordinators of today's program, and welcome to our very distinguished speakers, pillars in their different institutions. And welcome to all young ophthalmologists present here and our invited guests. We're all happy to have you here this morning on this very important topic, which is entrepreneurship options for young ophthalmologists. Entrepreneurship is a very important topic. It's like the creation or extraction of economic value in ways that generally entail beyond the minimal amount of risk and potentially involving values besides simply economic ones. As ophthalmologists, we are trying to think out of the box. So it's not just after residency, the next thing you want to do is to join a government facility. We're trying to maximize our skills and give ourselves economic values. So that is why YOF has gone far near to look for speakers that will be able to give us value to our topic. So our speakers are here present, and we want to invite our first speaker. He's Dr. Aji Marcus Obunna. He's a consultant ophthalmic surgeon in the Premium Nations Eye Hospital in Nsukka, Enugu. He finished his medical school training at Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Then he did his residency training at Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital, Guinness Eye Center, Onitsha, from 2010 to 2016. He's presently the MD CEO, the Premium Nations Eye Hospital, 206 Enugu Road in Nsukka, where he practices as a consultant ophthalmic surgeon, and he's married with children. Welcome, sir. You've been made co-host and the floor is open for you. Thank you so much, sir, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you very much, the Young Ophthalmology Forum, for inviting me for this discussion. It's very necessary. In fact, I've been looking for a way to talk to one or two people about this because it's very necessary that people understand that there are so many options apart from just, as you mentioned, just finishing school, going to look for a government job as if there is no other thing that one can do. So it's a very nice thing that you introduced this topic. So by way of introduction, I'm not an economist, I'm not into business this. So I will just state the entrepreneurship the way I've experienced it. So it's left for the second speaker to do the justice for other ones. So I will introduce myself. You've done that already, introduce the topic, then tell you my experiences. Then I will tell you the challenges a young entrepreneur in ophthalmology may encounter. And the experiences are drawn from my experience. That is, as in, I will say based on the experiences I had when I was starting my own. So you've done the introduction already. I'm Dr. Aji Marcus Obunna. I did my residency at Nnamdi Azikiwe University Hospital. I finished 2016. And I'm the MD CEO of the Premium Nations Eye Hospital in Nsukka. So back to the topic, the entrepreneurship in ophthalmology. Entrepreneurship is just initiating business and starting a business. That's entrepreneurship. And what is business? Business is art of buying and selling. Selling, it can be goods, it can be services. In the case of in the case of hospital, the services is the clinical aspect, but the goods we can as well buy and sell goods like in ophthalmology, frames, eyeglasses, and the rest of them. So the entrepreneurship in ophthalmology can come in three different forms because what people usually know is the clinical aspects, but you have manufacturing aspects. As an ophthalmologist, you can delve into manufacturing of ophthalmic equipment because you know the problems we have. Like all these engineers that we tell what to produce for us, if we are the ophthalmologist and you can relate better to an engineer what exactly you want, because we are the one that is doing the thing. Actually, we are the person that is doing the surgery or something like that. So as an ophthalmologist, you can delve into manufacturing of medical equipment. So apart from that, you can as well delve into like goods and services like importation of medical services, medical equipment, importation and selling. That's also an option. But I think the commonest is the clinical aspect, which is what I'm going to delve into. That is the practice, the clinical aspect of the ophthalmology, which is the main practice of ophthalmology. Let me go back to my experience, how I started. Normally, there is one thing I believe in, and that's the thing that has been keeping me on. And that thing is that in all the major cities in Nigeria, when you go around, all the streets in those major cities, you find people in one street, so up to 3, 4 people selling the same thing, pure water, mineral, beer, and this thing. Up to 4 or 5 selling exactly the same thing, and they're all smiling to the bank. If you go to another street, the same thing, and they're all smiling to the bank. At least they are not begging people for help. So that means at least they are supporting themselves with all those things. So now, if that number of people can be doing exactly the same business and still be making it, how much more ophthalmology that we don't have much people in it, and still we behave as if our whole life hovers around maybe government establishments or mission hospital. We don't have enough ophthalmologists in this country. In the major cities, the ones we may feel that maybe it's saturated. If you check the number of people in those major cities and number of ophthalmologists we have there, you see that it's not enough. It's not enough. So I see no reason why the entrepreneurship or ship option should not come in, because there is a large market outside there, unexplored, and which can be explored, and you make maximum benefits from it. And before I start, okay, let me start from my experience. I did my part 2 in 2015. I passed my part 2 exam in 2015. But because I wanted to start immediately, I didn't wait. I had to even defer my convocation to 2016 because the money I had to use it and buy protect tractor and slip down. And those are the 2 equipment I started. So then, Nsukka and Onitsha is like 3 hours journey. If you put into this thing, the bad roads and this thing, it's like 3 hours journey. So I had to come down to Nsukka to start the practice. And because I had the money for only street lamp and auto refractor, I didn't have enough money to rent an apartment for staff. So I had to look for a hospital that can give me a space. So I searched and I eventually got one. So they just gave me a room. And then the only days I was free then was on Thursdays and Saturdays. So I told them I will be coming on Thursdays and Saturdays. And on Thursdays, I will come do surgeries. On Saturdays, I will consult. And after doing surgeries, in the morning, I will do the post-op and go back to Onitsha and continue with my work. Then on Saturday, I will come back again, see people. It wasn't easy, as is expected anyway. Starting up a business is not easy, but with perseverance. Because one challenge that we normally have is that when you want to start up something, you expect the thing to just turn around within a matter of months or something. It's something you have to really be patient. You have to really be patient, because like when I started, sometimes you see like one person, you drive all the way from Onitsha, come to Nsukka 3 hours, spend all the money on fuel, and you see one person, sometimes 2 people. And after seeing the 2 people, they will tell you they don't have money, and they will go and you fuel your car back to Onitsha again. So it wasn't easy, but I persevered. I continued, and I was scouting for patients, doing all what's not and this thing. And from one thing to another, it started picking up. Until it got stable at a point. Then, when I was in Onisha, I wasn't appointed as a consultant. So I was a post-fellowship senior registrar. So in 2016, by the end of 2016, they gave me a letter, as in that my residency program has been terminated, that I've passed. So I left. Then I needed a support, because one thing, if you are starting up a business, you need a support. You need a salary from somewhere to be supporting those early days that will not be making much return on investments. So the only place I've approached for job, and the reason why I even approached them for job was just for the initial support for me to grow the business, was when I went to Parkland. I went there on 3 occasions. On the 4th one, I met the TMD, and he told me there was no vacancy. So in the teaching hospital, teaching hospital in Parkland. So people were telling me to go to the State House and get a letter and this. So by then, I sat down and I calculated that the money I was making then from my practice at Nsukka was by far more than the amount of money they were paying them at Parkland. So I was like, this time that I'm coming to invest here in Parkland, if I invest it there in Nsukka, will I not make more? So I forgot, I just abandoned the ideas of going to the government house and getting a letter from one senator or this thing. And I concentrated in my practice here in Nsukka. And one thing to another, and upward trend continued until 2019. I got a permanent site, a land for a permanent site. I built a permanent site and started it. I started it in 2022 when I relocated to my permanent site. As we are speaking now, of course, I'm here to get to where I want to be. But at least right now, on weekly basis, I see like 450 to 550 people on weekly basis. And there can hardly be any week that I don't do up to 25 cataract surgeries. So that's for the way that my experience starting up. Then I might have to itemize the challenges a young ophthalmologist may encounter in starting up a practice. I think one of the commonest challenges is the skill. As an ophthalmologist, you have to possess the skill first, because this is about service. You provide service, you get paid for the services you are providing. So as a young ophthalmologist that is trying to be an entrepreneur, at least if you don't have any other skill, you have to have skills. You have to be skilled in cataract surgery and refraction, because this is the gold mine. These two are the gold mines in the practice. They have to be skilled in cataract surgery, be it SICS, be it ECCE, be it FACO. You have to be skilled in cataract surgery. Most importantly, cataract surgery. Then refraction is an addition. If you are as a young ophthalmologist trying to set up if you are skilled in trabeculectomy, it's better you put it in your pockets, because starting up with trabeculectomy, it will do more harm than good. So if you are starting up, just concentrate first on cataract surgery, maybe pterygium refractions and this thing until you grow. Maybe if their center becomes a referral center, you can start trabeculectomy. Then secondly, the difficulties people do encounter in starting up is money for the startup. Like me, I encountered it. I told you when I was introducing myself that I passed in 2015. I had to define my convocation to 2000 because I used the money for the convocation to buy slit lamp and auto refractor. I didn't buy operating microscope until maybe after 4 to 5 months, when I gathered enough money because of money. So there are so many ways you can source for money. You can't do that. It doesn't. You can combine resources. You mustn't start alone. You can pool resources together, maybe 3, 4, 5 ophthalmologists, pool resources together, put everything in black and white. Combine it, and you won't start the way I started, because I started at the lowest form. So you can start in a bigger one. The how you started informs the speed with which you grow. So if you start bigger, your acceleration will be faster. But if you start lower, it will take you a longer time to get up. So you can source for funds on your own, the way I did, just from your savings from this thing. Then you can combine money, you can go to the bank, all these bank of industries, they can be of help. Then another one is the will to start. The will within you. I want to set up something. You know, this where most people do have problem, especially the big men. The big men, people that call themselves big in quotes, maybe they are used to being called all sorts of big names in the different establishments we have. So they would be asking themselves, what if I start and it doesn't go the way I want? Do you understand? All those what if, once it starts to cripple into your mind, then you won't start anything. You just have the where. Once we have the where, be aware. That is, you have to be aware, be convinced that you are going to succeed. Once you are aware that you will succeed, you are going to succeed. Then another one, very important, is the location of the practice. The location of the practice. I don't really believe that an area is saturated. Granted, there are some places that you find more ophthalmologists than in other places. But how I see it, that an area is saturated if you don't have anything different from others to offer. That's when you say that a place is saturated. But if you have something to offer that others don't have, like now, if you enter into a city now and maybe there are 30 ophthalmologists there, none of them is skilled in phaco, and you know how to do phaco. You can't say it's saturated. You just can't say it's saturated, because there is something we have which you don't have. Or maybe there are one, two or three machines we have which you've asked around, and none of them has it. So you can't say it's saturated. It's only an area is saturated when you are going into the market to do exactly what other people are doing without having anything to add. That's when you say that it's saturated. So if you are choosing a location, check the number of people that are there, what they do, the skills they have, the equipment they have, and what you can offer that is different from what those people is offering. If it's essentially the same thing they're offering that we are going to offer, well, we are going to pick, but it will take you a longer time. But if there is something you have that they don't have, it will take you a faster time. That means that there is nothing like saturation. Then another thing, if you get a location, the position of your hospital in that location is also very critical for a startup. When I mean position, I mean, like, if you are not known anywhere, it's not good to go and site your practice in one remote area of the town where very few people even know. It's good to site it where people that passes, they will see it, and subconsciously it will register in their memory that there is an eye hospital here. So they may not have any need to use it immediately. But whenever they have, hello? Yeah, but whenever they have any need to use this thing, they remember that, yeah, they have once seen an eye hospital there and this thing. So that's that. You need to cite a place that is strategic, where people will be seeing it. So it's very important for a young, but if you are already known, if you are popular, no matter where you start your practice, people will come. So another one that is very important is studying the socio-economic demography of the place where you are. Know the major source of income of majority of people, how buoyant are they, what do they normally do? What you just study them. So you have to sit down and study them so I know how your pricing will be. And you have to put into cognizance again. You have to capture everybody. There are people that are wealthy, there are people that are poor. You can't say you are serving mankind if you just make your service exclusively for the rich. Because those people that are rich are just, maybe say that 5% of the population. That means you've excluded like 95%. And the truth is that 95%, that's where the bulk of the money is. That's just the fact. So you have to factor in mechanism where you capture everybody. You capture both the rich and the poor. Know how you do it. Don't exclude anybody. So you have to study the demography, the socioeconomic demography of the place, and know how your base will be. Then again is sourcing for patients, because I told you my experience. When I started, sometimes you see one person, sometimes two, sometimes three. Sourcing for patients is not always easy. Some people, you can go for outreaches, and one thing with outreach, especially if you are doing this as a person on solo practice, it has been so much bastardized by the optometrists. So people, they've given outreaches that is so negative name that wherever you go, but they will even be thinking that it's people that came last week that came again. Sometimes they will return a glass that maybe they collected from an optometrist the previous week, that you are the person that gave them the glass that is not working or something like that. So this outreach is one of the commonest ways, but you have to know how you package your outreach so it will be different from others, because outreach has been so much bastardized. The another one is maybe church announcements, organizing free screening. I use that a lot, and it helps. Organizing a free screening. The screening is free, treatment is not free. Maybe all this World Sight Day, World Glaucoma Week, also, if you just map out a day, there will be aid in the radio and the churches, people will come. It's a word of awareness. People know that such services are there. Then again, that is also important as an entrepreneur, is government interference. If you want to delve into entrepreneurship in ophthalmology, one, we have to ask questions. You have to register your practice. That's one. In registering your practice, you have to ask questions. How do I want to register this? Do I register it as a limited liability or just as a sole proprietorship? That is enterprise. Each of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. It all depends on where you want your clinic to get to. So it all depends on where you want to take your practice to. If you are registering as a limited liability, ask questions well. Don't just get somebody to register as a limited liability as you abandon it and start to practice. Because there are certain things you need to be doing. They may not tell you. In fact, those in the FIRS, they even hold the info, they won't want you to know. It's as simple as just filing return, near. You are supposed to be doing it every year. It doesn't cost anything to file. But if you don't file it, maybe you may not know they are there. Once you are not making much money, you may not know that they are there. But once you start to make money, they will come with their full force and they will make life so unbearable for you. So if you want to register your hospital as a limited liability company, you have to bear this in mind. You register and you get somebody to be filing the returns for you. It doesn't cost anything. And it will cost you a lot of things if you don't file it. And you may not know all these things. And they will not come to you unless they see that you are making it. You will never know, even if you practice for like 20 years, 30 years, and maybe you are yet to become a brand. You will not know they are there. But once people start to hear your name and this thing, one day they will drive to your distance and make life unbearable to you. So if you are registering as a limited liability company, bear this in mind, that you have to be filing your return, whether you are doing anything. It doesn't cost anything, just to... Then the simplest one is registering as an enterprise. Most hospitals registered as an enterprise. That one is, just as I said, each of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. As an enterprise, in the eye of the government, we are just like every other market, a man or woman with a shop in a popular market. So, but if you register your business as a limited liability company, you can do business with government and you can go far. You can even have branches all over the country. So each of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. So another one that is under the government interference is multiple taxation. And the simplest solution for this multiple taxation is any location where you want to site your practice, identify with Association of Nigerian General Practitioners there.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Please, like 1 more minute to round up. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Just identify with doctors there because there is a union. Once you identify with the government, they won't come to exploit you. So another thing is communication with your patients, because there is a difference between what you do to your patients and what the patient perceives that you are doing for him. So you have to narrow the communication with your patients. Then again, reactions from people, your friends, fellow doctors, and even patients when you are starting off, especially if you are not starting big, you may get so many negative reactions. You have to ignore them for you to grow. Then, and most importantly, God's grace. That's the summary of everything. God's grace. If you are doing all these things and don't have the grace of God, that means it's as good as nothing. So that's that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We're so grateful. I've personally really learned a lot that this business has different angles. And the most important thing is that perseverance is actually it has to be top notch, because early starts is obviously not easy. But I need to congratulate you for actually growing from like 1 patient in a week to 450 to 500 patients. As it stands, you're beginning to compete with teaching hospitals. Okay, sir. So let's quickly move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Kenny Soprari. He's a health systems professional, investment manager, and international project finance expert with over 12-year experience in healthcare facility development and management across Nigeria. He received his MBBS at the University of Port Harcourt and proceeded for his postgraduate training in international management of health systems from the prestigious University of Liverpool, UK, with a profound passion for business development and administration. He furthered his education with an executive MBA from the renowned Lagos Business School. He has received various training from the University of Washington for healthcare management, project management, and healthcare economics, the University of Arizona on data analytics for business decisions, and also from Harvard Business School on disruptive strategy and alternative investments. As the CEO of Tokie Integrated Medical Services Limited, he has driven the firm to a health systems development and project management company of choice, especially in southern Nigeria. He has managed various healthcare projects, ventures, interventions in both the private and public space across primary through tertiary healthcare facilities. He founded Nigeria's first online healthcare store in Lagos and developed models which have been used in different hospitals. He has partnerships across the US, Europe, Asia, where he leverages in providing value to the African continent. He's currently the lead in Inveld Partners Limited, an investment and management firm raising foreign direct investments for healthcare projects in Nigeria. He's highly involved in NGOs for which he sits on 3 different boards. Dr. Tenye is a firm advocate for the potential of the African healthcare space and the sustainability of healthcare facilities by a synergy of private sector efficiency and the public sector skill to create social value and ensuring viability vis-a-vis objectivity of offering. His strategic management skill has seen him attain significant business positions in the financial, real estate, and hospitality sector. I present to you Dr. Tenye Isokrari, our next speaker. You have the floor, sir. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Good day, all. Thank you, Diamond. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, all right. Good day, all. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ogbonna. When I listened to your presentation, I'm thinking of going back to residency to study ophthalmology. Diamond, is there any space for me?
There is still space, so we are grossly understaffed. Like even WHO recommendation of one ophthalmologist to 50,000 persons. I don't think Nigeria is up to it. So yes, you will make a very good ophthalmologist.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I mean, when I listen to Dr. Ogbonna, it's really commendable. You need to have people like him speaking to more ophthalmologists. That's a beautiful story, and he comes from the perspective of what is practical, and that's what I loved about what he was saying. He's very practical about it. It's not just academic talk. He was really hitting the point. So thank you for that, sir. Okay, my talk today is from value to valuable. Most of what I want to talk about, he has actually, please, if for any moment you stop hearing me, please just let me know, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, all right. So from value to valuable, what I'm trying to do for this talk is to continue from where he stopped and just try to put the business world in perspective so that if you choose to go into business or you choose to go into any form of entrepreneurial venture, you know what to expect and you know where to put your mind so that you can ensure that the value you're creating is valuable. Okay. Okay, let's get on it. Now, there's one thing I want to get off the shelf immediately. If you look at this, it says creating value is an inherently cooperative process, but capturing value is inherently competitive. So we have to understand this, that you see, it's like the training you're getting. During your residency training or any other training you're getting, we all work together to try to say, let's work together, let's read together, let's pass together. But you see, when you go out there in trying to capture the value, you want people to capture your value, you're on your own, right? It's no longer, it's something that you have to build yourself. There's no system that you have to work together like a study group. It doesn't work. You have to understand what you want to do. And the world out there is very competitive. So for you to be able to stand out, you have to be unique in your offering. Now, what is the value system you need to look at? When we say, I'm hearing myself. Okay.
Okay. Yes, there's a holdback. You're echoing.
There's a holdback. Can I go ahead? Okay,
Yes, sir.
I think it's fine now. Now, when we talk about the value system, we need to understand that value is not just about you being able to have something to give. People need to know about it also too. So the first step, which is this, can you see my cursor? Can you see my cursor?
Yes, please.
We can.
Okay, all right. Now, the first thing in your value system is to have an idea. Now, this idea is something that is unique to you. And there are some things that Dr. Ogbonna mentioned where he talked about being able that if you can do, correct me if I'm wrong, if you can do a phaco, you're like every other person, but if you can do a cataract surgery, it makes you unique. So you have to be able to have something unique, something that brings you to the table. You can't just be like every other person, right? Because even though we say you need more ophthalmologists in the system, you have to still understand that there are levels. When everybody's on the same level, you have to step up. When you go to the next level, you have to continue stepping up. You have to have something that differentiates you, an idea that makes you unique so that you're not like every other person. So an interaction with you is going to differentiate you from the next person, all right? For him to move from 1 to 450, it means there's something unique about his offering. And then the next thing is that you have to be able to plug into the existing system. There's no business idea, no entrepreneur, nothing can survive in isolation. You have to plug into, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You want to create this system, like he mentioned also rightly. I'll keep going back to what he says because he is in your field. And so for you to understand what I'm saying, I have to take my context from what he has presented. He mentioned you have to join the group, general practitioners, right? So you have to plug yourself into the system. Now, not just that system, you have to look for the business community around, you have to look for the groups around there. You have to look for the financial system even. You have to look for social media now. But you have to be able to plug in your value system because if you look at what's happening right now, you don't have the best ophthalmologists having the best hospitals. Because one, even though you've passed this first stage, you have something unique, you're the best, you've not been able to plug yourself to the existing system. And sometimes you find yourself in isolation. You're very good in isolation, you can't plug into what exists, and so you're just struggling on your own. Now, that's where this comes in. You have to plug in. Now, lastly, you have to be able to say it. People need to know. People need to know. Because you see, no matter how good you are, doesn't matter how good you are, if people do not know about you and do not know how good you are, then it's all a waste of time. So you have to understand that your value system is not just, I can do this, or I am an ophthalmologist. It's not enough anymore. It has to be more than that. So you have to have something that differentiates you. You have to be able to plug into the system and you have to let people know that this is who I am. This is what I can do. This is what's different about me. This is me. Come to me, right? So it's very important we understand how this value system functions. Now, I need to be able to get this up. Okay, so now we need to also look at how are you going to bring this your value out there? How are you going to capture it in such a way that it can be valuable to you? It can hit the point where you want to get to. So the first thing is that you have to have a vehicle. Now that vehicle is where you take all these your ideas, this is your value, you take everything and you drop into a vehicle. And usually this vehicle is called the company. He also mentioned that you have to create a company and how to create a company between being a limited liability or to be like an enterprise. There are pros and cons to it. Like you mentioned, also the corporate part too. If you're going to have an enterprise, it means that you're bearing all the liabilities. If you have a personal income tax, it's going to affect you alone. But if you have it as CIT, if you have it as a limited liability, of course, it's limited by the share capital, right? So however you want to do it, you have to create this vehicle, which is going to be the company for which, because your value on its own cannot be monetized because you are just a person. You as a person, all you can do is to work for other people because you are just a tool. But once you take that tool, which you are, and you put it in a vehicle, now this vehicle can now offer value directly to the people. I don't know if I'm making sense. So this vehicle has a lot of things you need to look at, and we are going to get into that. Then secondly, you have to look at what's your objective. You need to know why you're going to this and how you're going to go into it, right? Now, there's always a point A, there's a point B. How do you move from your point A to your point B? Now, everything in between the point A to point B are your objectives. So you need to have it clear from the start. What do I want to achieve? What's my goal? What's my short term? What's my midterm? What's my long term, right? What are the key tenets for which my business will be hinged on? What's the value I intend to bring out there? What's my vision? What's my mission? Because when you don't have these things clearly stated, it means you're not shooting blindly. You need to know what you want to do. And lastly, you need to know how to monetize. Now, I will not mince words about it. It's important that we can monetize our value because why go through all this stress if you can't take care of yourself financially? So it's very important that you understand how to monetize this. Let's go into this individually. Now, when it comes to the vehicle, as an ophthalmologist or as a doctor, you don't have to know everything. Really, you don't have to know everything. You need to understand the operations part of this, right? I'll come back more into this vehicle, but I just need you to understand what relates to you. When it comes to operations, you have to do it 100% because the operations of the company is basically the clinical operations. And you being the ophthalmologist, you need to understand everything about it end to end. When I mean end to end of the clinical, it means that everything about patients, seeing the patient, surgeries, everything, including the pharmacy part of it, because that's considered the clinical. You have to understand that part 100%. 100%. Now, when it comes to the sales and marketing, it's okay to know 50%. You can get other people to come in. But remember, it's your voice, it's your dreams, your objectives. That's what they are amplifying. So it's important that you understand a part of it, which is 50%. So it's okay. You don't have to know everything about sales and marketing, but to know enough to be able to push it forward, right? For the finance part, the truth is that you don't need to know more than 25%. You just need to know enough to know when there's a problem. You just need to know enough such that when you're speaking to your accountant, they can't use jargon and make you lose money. So your vehicle has to be designed in such a way that you know where to put your efforts. Already you're good at clinical, so your operations are fine. But your sales and marketing, if you know nothing about these two, you have to go and take some courses on these two. You don't have to know too much, but you need to know more about the sales and marketing and a little about the finance part of things. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you talk about the objective, right? Why are we doing this? And what is the business about, really? You need to understand what the vision, mission, and values are. Now, the vision of a business is driven by you, the lead of the business, you, the entrepreneur, you, the primary value provider in this business. Now, the vision is something that you are never going to attain. The moment you attain your vision, the company should be closed down. So your vision should be something that speaks to your inner need, and it's never about money because it's about providing the value. So when you're developing your mission, it shouldn't be too long, but it should be something that you are striving to attain, but most likely you'll never attain it. So never have a vision that you can achieve. That's why it's called a vision. It has to be in front of you. It has to be ahead of you. So you develop a vision statement, which is going to be it's going to create purpose to what you're doing. Now, your mission statement is basically what you're going to do to attain your vision. So it means your mission statement most likely could change with time, right? Because if at this point, let's say for 5 years, you choose to attain your vision through a particular pathway, but things have changed, you're now bigger, right? Your mission might change. It might be more broader to be able to achieve that vision. But the mission clearly states how you're going to get to the vision. Now, your values are those things that is the basis of the business. So if my values, for example, is that I'm going to have to take care of my people, so it means every decision I make has to be based on people. If it's going to create true value, that means I'm going to give quality healthcare. If it's going to have efficiency, so everything I do has to be fast. If it has to be patient-centric, it means that I have to always put the patient first in all my decisions. And so once you have these things clearly stated, it guides your thoughts. So every decision you make, you check, is it in line with my vision? Yes. Is it in line with my mission? Yes. Does it fall within the tenets of my values? Yes. So this creates that guide for you. That's why I said the objective, why you're doing what you're doing, it has to be captured into a box. And that's the box that now drives all the decisions you make. Now you have to have a strategy too. What's your strategy? Now, the strategy, you have to look at it in terms of your short, your mid, and your long. Now, let's understand what strategy is. Strategy is not a plan. It's not an activity. It's more like the how. So if your strategy is to come into the market and you want to want to cover the market of the, let's say, high net worth individual. So I want to be the celebrity ophthalmologist. That could be a strategy, right? Now, if that's your strategy, it affects everything because your plan, your location, in fact, how your doctors will dress is all affected by that strategy. But you have to have a strategy. You can't just copy somebody else's strategy because you see, no matter how you see a business, the business is an outcome of the strategy of the drivers. So you can never get the strategy of a company by looking at the company. That's why you can only copy the output of the company or what you can see. But what brought about that output, you can never see it because it's all driven by the strategy of the driver or the entrepreneur or the business owner. So it's important to have a clear strategy of what you're going to do. The strategy is basically how you're going to use your vision, mission, values to obtain your endpoint, the objective of the business, which is to make profit or what have you, right? Then the market capture. What's your market? Now, there are different markets. Dr. Buna talked about different socioeconomic ladders. You could talk about the lower end. You could talk about the mid end. You talk about the upper end, where you have the high net worth individuals and the rest of them. You can also look at your market capture based on urban, rural. You can also look at your market capture in terms of, okay, let's say Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt are top tier. Then you now look at the Kaduna, Enugu, a few other places are second tier. So you can use also geographic locations to say, okay, this is the market I want to capture. Or you can also say, I want to capture in some places, like if let's say I'm serving the Muslim community, I could say that, okay, my market I want to capture is the Muslim community. And that's going to affect how I arrange my place, how my people dress and everything, right? I'm sure you've seen a lot of businesses that have those kind of things. There are some businesses that are focused on a particular church. So they just capture the church members and they're moving on. So you have to understand that, okay, where am I capturing? What's the area? Where do I want to grab attention? So you consider that it helps you in your sales and marketing and your branding. So you don't just throw your net wide and try to capture everybody. But once you understand this is the market I want to capture, you're now going to fine-tune all your offerings to be able to be well suited for that market. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about business life cycle, okay? You see, this is just something that it's important that we all understand when we start up a business, so that we don't understand that, you don't think that once you start up your business, you're in Shangri-La, everything is fine. For other businesses, when I mean other businesses, anything from finance to real estate to what have you, this red line is how it goes. Now, Q1 means first quarter, that's January to March, or first 3 months, or any 3 months. So basically, what happens is that once any other business, any other industry, they start a business, this is zero, right? They go to a dip. During this period, there's no cash flow, nothing's happening, the business is struggling, basically, right? And this is where most people give up at this point, where it is very tough, it doesn't make sense. And so what happens is that you go down this slope. For other businesses, not healthcare business. And what happens that if you can persevere, if they can persevere, they come out of this. And they go through a tough period, then all of a sudden they shoot up. You see, the slope is higher. They go higher fast. But guess what happens with other businesses? They plateau, right? And they plateau, and then they now come to the decline phase of the business. All right. Now, so this is the growth phase of the business. So what I'm trying to say is that for other businesses, what happens is the growth phase, the phase of increase comes much earlier than healthcare. For healthcare, it doesn't come that fast. Now, this is what happens in healthcare. Other business, when they start, they struggle immediately. But you see what happens in healthcare, when you start immediately, because you're healthcare, people need you. Initially, the inquisitive ones will come. So it gives you this hope that, oh, my business is well, my business is well, oh, fantastic, oh, people are coming around. Then guess what? You must go through that dip too. All of a sudden, things you didn't plan starts coming up. You didn't plan for this problem, your generator will just wake up one day and pack up. Your main staff will just wake up one day and japa. Your supplier, all of a sudden one day will tell you that that thing you paid for, someone else has bought it. You start off and tax authorities start disturbing you and you have all sorts of issues. So what happens is that this initial excitement will be drowned because you're going to go below zero. And at that point, that's when people that told you, you see, you went to start a business, you didn't understand it, all that talk will happen here. But you have to understand that it is part of the business life cycle. It must come, no matter the business, it doesn't matter, but it must go through this period because the essence of this period is for the business to also teach you how to connect with it. Because you see, whenever you set up a business, understand one thing, that it's a marriage between the driver and the business. You have to understand that your business has a life of its own, and it's a person on its own. So you have to be able to marry your business to you. So that synergy happens during this period where you have to sit down and tell yourself that, I have to listen to the business. I have to listen to the market too. Some of the concepts I taught are not going to work as I thought, right? So once that marriage happens, guess what? You come out of it. Now, initially, you're going to grow slowly because you see, the healthcare market is one of trust and it's one of long-term relationship. When somebody comes to you and they start using your service, it's a bond. They are trusting you with their most valuable possession, which is their healthcare. And so they are slow to move to you. If I'm coming to meet you to do an operation on my eyes, or I'm coming to buy, let's say, a phone from you, two different relationships. You can meet anybody and buy a phone. But I can't meet anybody to fix my eyes. So there are two different things. So guess what? It starts slow. As you can see, the other business are making a lot of money here already. But healthcare starts slow. But you see, what happens is that once you hit that trust spot, once people trust your brand value, once you've crossed that sweet spot, then you just keep going up. You just keep going up. And I can tell you that if you ask Dr. Ogona, he will tell you that this 450 he said a week, it didn't start from the beginning. There was a time when it was growing very slowly. Then all of a sudden, it started growing so fast that he was wondering what's happening. Why are so many people coming here? Because you see, it's a thing of, I trust these people, go and meet them. I trust these people, go and meet them. After a while, so many people, it's exponential at this point, and it keeps going up. And you see, there's one thing we enjoy in healthcare is that we have absolute utility. Means that I can buy a phone and I say, I don't like this phone. I thought I loved Apple phones. I thought I love iPhones, but I don't seem to like it. But you see, if somebody cannot see and you take out the cataract in their eyes and they can now see, it's 100%. There's nothing like, oh, I wish you removed only half and left half. It doesn't work that way. So the value we provide is one that is absolute. So it means that once you keep going here, it doesn't plateau. What plateaus is the capacity of the driver. Because most times we keep thinking that we are gods as doctors. We need to understand that as a human being, the business and you are two different entities. You are restricted by your human nature. You have to rest. You have to have holidays. You have family problems. You have issues as a person. The business has to be totally independent of you. But what happens is that we overlap it. So the business only grows as much as the driver grows. So if the driver plateaus, not because he's a bad person or she's a bad person, but because they are human and they can't go past it. You can't do the work of 10 people. So once you get to that point, the business plateaus. It's never about the business. In healthcare business, the business never wants to plateau. It's always the driver that forces the business to plateau. All right, let's go to the interesting part that we want to talk about, which is the monetization. Now you've created your value, you've created your vehicle. How do you monetize this? The first step is this. You have to hone your craft. You have to be good at what you do. I cannot overemphasize this. You have to know your craft. If you do not, look, you can only get away with so much. Before you talk about any form of monetization, any form of anything, you have to be good at what you do. So you have to first say that, am I good at this? Can I do this? And Dr. Mona talked a lot about that when he talked about you have to know how to do, if it's this one. So many people are doing this, but you can do this very well. So that differentiates you. So that craft, whatever it is, you have to really be good at it. Because if you're not good at it, forget about monetization. Because you end up making some money at the beginning, then you have lawsuits that will take all that money from you. Then the next thing is that you have to understand your markets. You see, what happens is that we try to say, okay, let's get the money immediately. No, you have to know, where am I getting this money from? You see, there are two kinds of businesses, right? There are those that take small money from a lot of people, and there are those that take big money from a few people. So you have to understand this is spectrum. You have to know what part of this spectrum do I want to play. Do you want to be able to do mass marketing, where you have a lot of people coming to your place, your margins are small, but your throughput and your turnover is really high. Traffic comes in, traffic goes out. So it's a game of numbers for you, right? And that usually is what the teaching hospital do. That's why the teaching hospitals make a lot of money, really. It works for them. So you have to understand the market. And then your differentiation, what differentiates you? Now, at this point, you've not even started giving out value. You're just understanding what is unique about you. So you understand your craft. You've picked out your market. This is where I want to sell. You now have to differentiate yourself. What is unique about me? Do I have a mobile ophthalmology system? Do I have the one that, okay, I have this machine, I'm the only one that has it? Or do I have this colorful building? Or do I brand myself? You need to have something, right? So once you find out what differentiates you, at that point, you start to provide value. Now, understand that when I say you provide value, it doesn't mean that at this point, you're going to start making this money, but you're providing value at this point. Now, when you provide value, because you need to have something to shout, you need to say, I did this, I can do this, I'm good at this. Now, once you provided that value, you now start shouting, I can do this. To shout, you can't just shout blindly. With digital marketing and brand value as a major driver right now in the perception and the valuation of companies, there has to be a story. The same way you as a person has a personal brand, your business has to have a brand too. Your business has to be known as something. So it's no longer just your hospital. It's no longer a Dr. Bonner's hospital. It is now a brand that is bigger than him, so that people do not come just for him. People come for that brand. And so once you make the brand bigger than you, it's at that point that people are not paying for your service because of the man, but people are paying for the service because of what that brand means to them. You now become an Apple. I read somewhere, watched somewhere where they said that an Apple phone is made with $10 and we are buying it for $1,200, $1,100. But it's made with $10 because it's the brand. They've built something over the years. Now it's at that point that you now invoice. It's at that point you now monetize. If you monetize too early, what happens that you chase people away? They look at it like, this man wants money, money, money and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. But most times it's because it is premature. There comes a point where you can bill with your full chest. And this is what my value is. Pay me because I built it. So there's always a step. So you see, between the craft, where you have the craft, and to when you invoice, there are a lot of things you have to put together. But the mistake we make is that we believe that because we have a craft, it means people should pay us well for it. No, it's much more than that. It's a journey. You don't just take it overnight, all right? Now, let me just put together how you understand how the business actually works so that you get the concept in your head on the... I'm not very theoretical about these things because you can go on YouTube and watch it, but I want you to understand it so that when you go and do further research, it makes sense to you, okay? Now, this is the vehicle we talked about. This is the company. This is the business, right? This is the ophthalmo hospital. This is ophthalmo hospital, this vehicle. You as the entrepreneur, you as the driver, you are just here. This is where you are. You're the one that brings up the idea. You are not the company. You are not that. You are the driver. Now, your job at this point as the CEO or the MD is basically strategy, right? You're creating the vehicle, you're creating the objectives, you understand the strategy. So all you're doing is that you're actually pushing the strategy to the vehicle. Now, this vehicle has to move forward. For it to move forward, it means that this person has to keep pushing it forward. So you need to devise the strategy, but you need to understand one key thing, that you are not the vehicle. You are just someone that uses strategy ideas to push the vehicle forward, all right? Then what you have here are the operations. For the operation, these are the clinical operations. These are the things that you do. This is your work. This is your ophthalmology work, right? So you have to be good at this, because if your operations are not good, the car is going to fall down. The tires are going to go out and the car will hit the ground. And once it hits the ground, it doesn't matter your strategy. The car will not move forward, okay? Now, this is the accounts, the finance, the reason why you're in business, the how you want to monetize, right? So as long as the car is moving and the car is upright, you can keep making more money from it. So that's why the accounts, you have to understand the accounts, but you can always pay someone to do this for you, right? You can get an accountant, but understand a bit about it. Now, this is sales and marketing. No matter how much your strategy pushes this car, you need something else that will pull the car. This is a pull. So your sales and marketing is what pulls the car. it doesn't matter if you look at this picture, you understand that it doesn't matter how good you are as an ophthalmologist, you will never pull the car forward. So what happens in a lot of healthcare facilities is that you're so good here, but your facility is not growing. You wonder, why am I not getting big? Why is this place not growing? It's because the job of the growth is on the strategy and the sales and marketing. What the operations does is just keeps you off the ground. Once you're off the ground, automatically you start making money, but you won't grow. So the essence of what you're trying to do is to ensure that your strategy pushes the vehicle forward and your sales and marketing pulls the vehicle forward, and that's how you see growth. Now, one thing I need to mention is partnership, and that's where a lot of doctors miss it, right?
Okay, sir. We are really, really enjoying you. We're giving you 2 minutes to round up.
No problem, I'm done. This is like the second to last.
Thank you.
So you have to have partnerships with other ophthalmologists, right? That works. Then you also have partnership with other medical professionals. You could partner with hospitals. Like he said, he had a room in a hospital where you could partner with. So that could also work. You should all look at. Then also there are non-medicals. You can also partner with some people in finance, some people in business development, or whatever it is to set up your practice. So you should always understand that partnership is very key. Now, for your further reading, I think you should look at, I'm sure most of you know the SWOT analysis, but look at the business model canvas, SWOT analysis, personal analysis. Personal analysis talks about the socioeconomic leveling, how it is for you to understand where to set up your business and the decisions to make. But as 5 forces talks about your competitive landscape. You need to understand your income statement. This income statement has to do with your finance. These are the basic things you understand, and your marketing mix, which has to do with the traditionally 4 P's of marketing. So just study this and to give you more insight into what you're trying to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tenye Sokari. Fantastic lecture. Fantastic, fantastic. In fact, my jotter is full. Okay, the floor is open for questions. I don't have any in the chat box. So if you have any question, you can either signify by lifting your hands or unmuting your mic and asking your questions. So the floor is open for questions, open for comments, and any other personal advice you have for the young ophthalmologist here.
Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Kindly introduce yourself and ask your question.
I'm Dr. Alabi Isolua from Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. My question is directed at Dr. Tenye. Thank you so much for the lecture, sir. Actually, this is more from trying to clarify on some things. You discussed a bit of them, but we just need a bit more clarification. Growing up as a child, I visited private hospitals a lot. And one thing I had elders talk about then was that doctors are not good administrators. And that because eventually as I grew up, I realized that most of those hospitals just kind of packed up. You know, they've been there for about 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden they're just out of practice. And so I would expect that the business life cycle curve would have been, you know, they should have gone beyond the lower, that deep. They should have gone beyond that phase at that time. It's that period they were expected to, you know, go up that curve and then just continue. And then the business just peters out like that and die. How do you think these older doctors could have managed things better, or how do you think we could avoid these eventualities? What does it mean when they say doctors are poor administrators or something like that? Could you please shed some light, sir?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Let's take the next question so that he can answer both together. Dr. Dong Simi, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Dr. Dung Simi from Jos University Teaching Hospital, a senior registrar in ophthalmology. My question is related to the first speaker's question, like the span of time a business can stay. I've heard that for you to grow a business, it should be sort of like independent of you. I know this is a medical, we're talking about healthcare and hospital, but in a sense, how do you make the business outlive you? How do you create a brand? For example, like these Aravind hospitals in India and all, the founder of the hospital is likely no more. So how do you make a business outgrow you? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dung. The next question is on the chat box, Dr. Tang. It says, thank you so much for the lecture. You talked more of timing for monetization. What of the strategies for monetization are the different strategies of your business? So please, can you answer these 3 questions? Thank you. By the way, if you have questions for the first speaker, still bring it on. Thank you.
Okay. First, I'd like to say, I wouldn't say doctors are bad managers. I say human beings are bad managers because success is counterintuitive, okay? Most times we are driven by our needs, our primal needs, and your primal need is you need to have it now. So it's not doctors that are bad managers, right? Or hospitals. Hospitals should have good managers, whether they are doctors or not, right? So I'm a strong proponent for the fact that you need to see a hospital as a business, as an organization. Don't see it like a practice, right? So for you to be able to run a hospital, you need to ask yourself, am I a good manager? If you're not a good manager, you go get training for management. You go for courses. You can get different courses right now that you can have these trainings. In fact, there are free courses online that can give you the basics and you can build from there. So it's not doctors that are bad managers. Human beings generally are bad managers. Let's not tie it to us like we are these, very terrible managers. But we need to understand that there's a role. For example, I'm not an ophthalmologist. I cannot go into theater and remove someone's cataract. Does that make me a bad person, bad doctor? It doesn't make me a bad doctor, but I am not trained as an ophthalmologist. So if you want to be in a management position, you want to manage a business, you have to be trained for that, right? So I want to always take that out. Doctors are not bad managers. Human beings generally are bad managers, right? Okay, so how do you make a business outgrow you? I'd like to come back to what Dr. Bona said. So someone, please permit me to always use your talk as the bedrock for mine.
Yes, Dr. Tang, even after you finish answering your questions too, these same questions can also be answered by Dr. Bona. So the more the merrier. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. So how do you make a business outgrow you? He mentioned something about an enterprise and limited liability company. An enterprise basically is an extension of you. It's more like, I want to start a business. I don't use my name. Let me use another name. So sometimes they call it a business name, but it's an extension of you. So that's what we've always had. In the previous older hospitals, when you go to a hospital, even though the hospital has a name, everybody knows it by the owner's name. So it's basically an enterprise. You can have a green light hospital, but everybody knows Dr. Green's hospital. You understand? So it's an enterprise, really. It's much more, it's not more than that person. So once the person becomes old and gets weak, the hospital plateaus and slowly dies off because it follows the life cycle of the person. And as a man, you can only, or as a human being, you can only go so for so long. So the problem is that there's no transition from that enterprise to a limited liability company or a corporation of any sort. Now, if it's going to become a corporation, it means that, or a proper company, it means that it is now it's not one person anymore. It's a group of people. It's an entity separate from the person that started it. So once it's an entity, it's a collection of people who are driving this process right now. So even if the primary person that started it is no more or he's weak, it's not about him, it's not on his shoulder anymore. And so people can continue with this. But for you to have this, you have to have a plan for this to happen. You have to say that, okay, I've run a business for 5, 10 years. I need to plan for the next 10 years. For the next 10 years, I have to build people, bring in partners. I have to grow people in the business, give out equity. It needs to be our team, not my team anymore. So there comes a stage where I can even step out and the business is running on its own because it's no longer on my shoulder. So it's something that every business has to plan for. But the truth is that at the beginning, it's all on your shoulder. If it's just one person, if there are two of you, it's your hospital. People come there because it is Dr. Diamond's hospital. But from there, you have to understand that you have to make this business to transition to a point where it's not about you anymore. So that is actually what kills most of these businesses. Then the last other question was, what are the strategies for monetization at different stages of the business? There's this saying where when you want to monetize, the first thing in monetization is that you have to create value, you have to provide value, and that value has to be recognized. So these three things have to be done. You have to create value first, right? You have to provide this value to those that need it, because there's a difference between, okay, let's say, sorry, Diamond, I know I'm dragging this in a bit, but let me just go into it a bit, please, pardon me. When you have a situation where, let's say, I just want to check people's eyes and give them glasses, which is basically what the optometrist does. And you don't want to go into the proper surgery. You don't want to go into those specialized areas, right? You won't be able to make as much money as someone that goes into those areas, all right? So at the stage where you are, you can see that, okay, I'm starting with this because I do not have enough money to buy these big equipments. And you start from there, right? You can only monetize so much at that stage. What I mean is that you can monetize as much as the value that you can provide. You can't monetize more than the value you can provide, because a lot of times what people do is that they just make a lot of noise, a lot of whitewashing, but it doesn't last. So what you should focus on is to ensure that you can create value at the various stages. I don't know your stage. You are the one that knows how much money you have and what you want to do. But understand that you can only monetize as much as the value you can provide. And like he said, you might not have all the money to buy all the equipment, but whatever you do, you fully optimize it. That's it. So, yes, that's basically it. Is government registration for a clinic different from a hospital? No, there's no real difference. A practice
Okay, Dr. Tani, I will read out your other questions. Let me see if Dr. Obuna has any input on the ones you've answered, then we go ahead with other questions. Dr. Bona, are you still on, sir?
Yeah, I'm on. I'm still on.
That's okay, sir. Please, can we have your insight to the questions?
Yeah, the second speaker has basically said everything I wanted to say, especially in the aspects of the group practice. I was about to mention, I mentioned it when I was doing the presentation, as in the aspects of the group practice. The person that asked the question, he used the Arabian example. But even here in Nigeria, I Foundation Hospital is another example. It's a group practice. So if you want to, we are practice to outlive you. I think the simplest thing is what the second speaker has said. Just organize, have a group practice. Get people, pool resources together, register it as a limited liability. Then we have share. Each individual should have a share. So it's not going to be something that one person will just wake up one morning and sack you. You know, we are protected. So, and when I mean group practice, I don't mean one individual having a hospital, furnishing it, and getting other ophthalmologists to work in it. That one is not group practice, as in the kind of group practice I'm talking about. I'm talking of all the ophthalmologists. If it's 5 or 6, you put resources together, establish it, register it, and put everything in black and white. Because there is usually problem. That one, it comes with its own pros and cons. So there is usually problem, but you envisage anything that may arise as the problem and put everything in black and white, so that whenever it comes now, it's already settled on the paper. So the second speaker has virtually said everything I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bona, and please do not go out. Still stay around, sir. So okay. The next questions are, thank you, Dr. Tenye. Which is better when starting out, partnership or private? Thank you so much for the lecture. How do you run a private hospital while working in a teaching or government hospital? I'm sure all of us are trying to ask this question. Thank you, Dr. Linda, for bringing it up. For the first speaker, how do you manage a bad name that may come following a complication you had after performing a surgery? Dr. Bona, is it okay to invite a colleague who can offer a service you can't offer, example, FACO, to your facility? So you're still on, Dr. Bona. Please take these questions, then Dr. Tenyi will give us his inputs. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely yes. Yeah, in fact, not only that you can invite a colleague to your facility to perform what you don't have either the skills or the machines to perform. You can as well refer to another colleague that maybe has facilities for FACO and you don't have it. So then there's also another question that was asked before that one.
How you can manage, working in a government facility and in a private facility?
Okay, there is one I want to handle before that one. How to handle bad name that's associated with complication. Of course, as an ophthalmic surgeon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As an ophthalmic surgeon, complications must come. Even in the best hand, it must come. The most important thing is communication with your patients. If it comes, communicate with the patients, be friendly with the patients, because they know you are a human being. And so far, we've been getting results. One or two complications will not make tarnish your image so much like that. So far, consistently, we've been getting results. Yeah, it's expected. You are not God. You are a human being. In as much as you are God, you are a doctor, you are not God. So it's expected once in a while you have complications, just communicate with the patients, and you have to know how you balance the billing. Like you don't, like, for example, if you operate on somebody and the patient develops endophthalmitis, you don't go about billing the normal way that for you to give the intravitreal. You can reduce the billing. You can just maybe collect this thing and reduce the billing by half, because there is a way you bill the patient to come for the injection. The patient, you will lose the patient, and that will be a loss. But if you reduce the billing for the patient to come for the injection, at least the person will come, and if by sheer luck and it does the complication is solved, is a credit to your name. So you communicate with your patients, you know how to deal with the billing, and that's all. Then another one is having a private establishment and at the same time working with governments. Of course, now so many people do it, even though that's not what I do, and it depends on the way we are created. Some of us, I never wanted to work for government. I'm a born entrepreneur. I never wanted to work for a government. The government I worked for was just to raise capital to start for my own. So, but you can combine both effectively, but making sure that one time, that is the time for government doesn't affect you, and the time for your private doesn't affect your work in government. Even though, if you want to really be an entrepreneur, if you want to really enter into the business, you have to resign from government, because working for government, the money will not be that much, and two, what will be depriving you will be so many. Because those man hours you spend in the government hospitals doing this, and again, you can't practice the way you want to practice if you are working with the government. You can't do everything you want to do. You'll be restricted by so many bureaucracies, the CMD, the government, the HOD, all those bureaucracies. But it's not like that in private facility. Once you pay your taxes and settle the government, the sky is your limit. You can do whatever you want in your private establishment, so far you don't go against the law of the land. So that's that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bona. There's this saying that goes, show me a surgeon that doesn't have complications, and I'll show you a non-operating surgeon. So yes, actually, your manner of approach is very important. And if you see a patient that has a complicated case, you need to tell the patient, your case is complicated. See, this is not a normal, straightforward case. And the patient is aware even before the patient gets into theater. So that even helps you more with your patient's management. And you need to know how to manage your patient's expectation. So thank you very much, sir. Dr. Tanye, please let's hear your insights on these other questions too. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. First, can you work in a government facility while running your private? Yes, you can. Just like you said, it's not the ideal, but yes, you can. But you should plan an exit. You should plan for an exit, especially if you want the place to grow. You should plan for an exit. You can't, if for you, it's more like just a side hustle, then it's fine. But if you really want to grow your practice, you can only do it for so long, right? So that's one. Then two, if you have a complication or you have a bad complication and there's some bad, with social media now, it's really in the forefront. You have a problem and they pull you out on social media. You see, that's why it's important to have a strong brand, very, very strong brand. You have to build your brand value. And usually, you see, your good works will always outshine the one bad case you have. So if you have a problem, like Dr. Bona said, you try as much as possible to pacify the patient, do what you can to help them. Now, if this patient is difficult and it's really a bad one and there's nothing you can do about it, this other thing you need to also do is to check your system and ask yourself, why did this happen? How can I make sure this doesn't happen again? You have to check internally to make sure that whoever dropped the ball or wherever the problem came from, it doesn't happen again, right? But most important thing is that you have to keep doing the good work you're doing. You don't stop. You don't cry over spilled milk. It has happened. But trust me, once you've established your brand and people have known you for doing a good work, that one issue you have will not make people stop coming to you. People understand that this happens, right? But you have to truly trust your value, what you're bringing to the table, and why you're doing what you're doing. But like the Diamond you said, there's no surgeon that won't have these complications. But first, you have to make sure you pacify, do your best to pacify that patient. That's one. Then two, you have to check your system. Where did we drop the ball? Because if there was a complication and you know it was your fault, it should not happen to a patient again. It shouldn't happen. That should be a chance for you to plug up those holes. Very important. Then, okay, private hospital, we talked about that. And yes, a colleague working in, of course, perfectly, partnership. I'm talking about, is it okay to invite a colleague who can offer a service you can't offer in your facility? To me, I say yes, because I'll always support partnerships. You can't do everything yourself, right? And you find out that when this colleague is coming to your place to do this particular surgery, the colleague is also carrying some load for you. So both of you, it might succeed, because once your place succeeds, their practice or whatever they're doing also succeeds too. So yes, that is something that we should all be happy to do. So this is also something that we should also consider. If I do not have the funds or the resources to set up my own facility, I can just buy just one machine that I know that the next guy doesn't have. And I take that machine and say, look, give me a room. Let me use this to start. And I start building from there, and I start giving out my card. People start knowing me. When I want to set up my place, it's easy for people to say, okay, no problem. Or if I want to partner with that colleague tomorrow, I can come from a position of power and say, look, I have these patients, they're working with me. I've already built some credibility, so we can share equity. So that's actually an in for those that don't have the resource to set up their own facility. So I think that's a good one. I believe I've covered all the questions. Hello?
Yes, I think you have. Did you answer the one on public?
Yes, for the public, yes, I mentioned that. Can you hear me, Diamond? Can you hear me?
And private partnership, which one question asked by, I can't find that. Okay, yes.
Go ahead, please. What question? Is it the one about the private hospital while working in a teaching hospital?
No, you answered that. I don't think I can find that particular question.
Which is better when starting on a partnership or
Yes.
private?
Yes. That
Yes, there
question.
are a lot of factors that goes into that. One, how much resource do you have? Two, how much time do you have? Three, how much skill do you have? Right? So it's the question. But I personally will always advise against starting out on your own. I'll always advise against that. At this stage, right, from where we are going now, I'm talking about the business landscape from now going forward. I'm not talking about what happened before now. But in going forward, I'll advise that we come together, because in business, 1 + 1 is always 3. It's never 2. So if you can find a group of people or one person that actually fits, especially when maybe you have true friendship or you've known each other for a long time, right? You know each other for a long time, and you can bank on the character of the person. Yes, it's always best to do that. It's always best to do that. I always advise people to do that, go into partnership. But if, for example, you want to have like a small practice, you're working in the main government hospital, and then you want to have something on the side, all right? You can always do that too. You can always say that I have a government hospital. Oh my gosh. I have a government hospital and I also want to have something by the side. You can always have something like that to say that, let me have a small practice. It's not going to grow just by the side. You can do that too on your own. So it depends on your skill, your resource, the time you have for this little service, and your interests, your future plans, right? If I'm planning to, which I'll not encourage anybody to, if I'm planning to Japan, then of course, I just want to have a small practice that I'll just grow, make some money, sell off and travel. I'm not planning for the long term. But if I really look at something that is going to, my kids, my grandkids are going to benefit from this, then of course, I will need to build something that will outlive me. So in that case, I'll say that, okay, look, let all of us come together and do this. So there are factors that affect that, yes.
Thank you very much to our dear speakers, Dr. Bona and Dr. Tang. And Dr. Tang, your last statement, you won't advise anybody to Jakpa. Please allow us, if you want to Jakpa, let us Jakpa. It is part of our entrepreneurship skills. So a big thank you from the chairman and executive of Young Ophthalmologists Forum. Dr. Bature.
Hello, good
Please,
evening.
can you give us like a closing remark?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Diamond, for effectively coordinating this meeting this morning. On behalf of YOF, we sincerely appreciate our guest speakers, Dr. Tang and Dr. Bona, for the wealth of knowledge they shared with us on entrepreneurship, especially as it regards to ophthalmic practice. And we'll bring you more of these webinars in the coming months. So thank you all for coming, and I hope we find it beneficial. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much once again. I was truly blessed this morning. I'm so grateful. And thank you, dear speakers, for honoring our invitation. All right. Have a beautiful weekend and a fantastic weekend.
All right.